Everyone knew you didn't ask questions. The families that lived there had their own rules, and if you didn't follow them, there were consequences. Loud, messy consequences. The kind that left blood on the pavement and more. As a kid, I didn't understand much, but I knew one thing: when the black sedan rolled onto the street, trouble followed. Doors slammed, arguments erupted, and sometimes, gunshots echoed through the night. My parents would pull me away from the windows, locking the doors and turning up the TV to drown out the noise. My father got a call. He said, "We're on our way." I could see he gripped the steering wheel tighter than usual. I was young, but even then, I knew something wasn't right. When we reached the alley, my dad didn't say a word. He just opened the door and got out. I followed. A noise made us both jump, a sharp bang. My dad straightened, his eyes scanning. "Get in the car," he said sharply. My dad's grip tightened on my arm, as if he knew exactly what was coming. I wanted to ask what was happening. I hesitated, but the urgency in his voice made me move without thinking. But now, his tone left no room for argument. One summer evening, I heard shouting outside. My dad's expression hardened, his jaw tightening as he peered out the window. "Go to your room," he said sharply. But I didn't listen. I crept to the hallway, peering out the window just enough to see. The black sedan was there, its headlights cutting through the dust. 3 men stood around another man on his knees. His face was bloody, and he was shaking, his hands raised in a silent plea. One of the men raised a hand, and I saw something glint, brass knuckles. My dad pulled me back before I could see what happened next, but the sound of fists meeting flesh, of the man's groans turning into screams, haunted me for years. The next morning, there was no trace of the man. Just a dark stain on the asphalt that the rain hadn't washed away. I thought I'd left that world behind, but last week, it came back. I was leaving work late when I saw it, the black sedan, parked. Its engine rumbled softly, almost like a grunt. I hurried to my car, but before I could reach it, the passenger window rolled down. A man's voice called out my name. I turned slowly. The driver leaned forward. His face was familiar, one of the men from that night. He looked exactly the same. "We don't forget," he said. I didn't answer. I just stepped back, keeping my eyes on the car. When I got home, there was a package waiting on my doorstep. Inside was a bloodstained piece of fabric and a note that read, "You saw too much." It looked old, but the stains were still wet.